The crystal chandeliers shimmered above her as if mocking her, scattering gold light across the marble floors of the exclusive rooftop restaurant. It was the type of place where the wealthy didn't just dine, they performed, where diamonds sparkled like armor, and every movement was a quiet reminder of status. Amara Castillo walked in with cautious steps, her fingers smoothing the fabric of her soft blue dress. It wasn't designer, it wasn't new, and it definitely wasn't expensive. But it was clean, pretty, and meaningful. Her mother had sewn it for her 2 years ago. She wore it with pride. Until the waiter laughed. She had barely reached the host stand when he looked her up and down, with an expression that sliced through her confidence like cold steel. His laugh wasn't loud, but sharp enough for the nearest guests to hear. Heads turned, eyes lingered. "Ma'am," he said, lips curled. "I think you're lost." Amara blinked. "I'm here for dinner." He shook his head slowly, dramatically, as if pitying her. "We don't serve people like you." The words dropped like a stone into her chest. "People like you." Amara swallowed. "I have a reservation." "I doubt that," he said, stepping forward, blocking her path with a polished arrogance that had clearly been practiced. "This restaurant requires a certain standard." His eyes dragged down her dress again. "Next time, try somewhere more appropriate." A few murmurs rose from nearby tables. Did she really think she could eat here? Look at her dress. Probably came to take pictures. Heat rushed up Amara's throat, her ears burning. Her first instinct was to leave, to protect what dignity was left. But something held her in place, something stubborn, something tired of being pushed down. "I do have a reservation," she said, firmer this time. The waiter rolled his eyes. "Under what name?" "Castillo," he snorted. "Exactly as I thought. Nothing here under." He paused. His smirk slipped. He leaned closer to the screen, typed her name again, slower. His face went pale. "No, that's not possible," he whispered under his breath. Amara frowned. "Is there a problem?" He straightened instantly, stiff as stone, his bravado draining from him like spilled wine. "No, no problem," he said quickly, too quickly. "Just one moment." He rushed off, nearly tripping over his own feet. Amara stood alone, surrounded by whispers, every second stretching painfully. She wanted to leave. She wanted to breathe. She wanted to vanish. But before she could step back, the atmosphere shifted. A sudden, heavy silence fell over the dining room, because someone was approaching, not the waiter, someone else, someone whose presence seemed to ripple through the room like a change in temperature. The restaurant manager walked toward her, flustered and pale, wiping his hands nervously on his blazer. But it wasn't him the guests were staring at. It was the man behind him, a tall, sharply dressed man in a tailored charcoal suit. Broad shoulders, commanding posture, eyes like dark fire cutting through the room. He moved with quiet power, with the ease of someone used to being obeyed the moment he breathed. Amara's heart stilled. She knew him, everyone did. Christian Ardell, the billionaire, the man whose face filled business magazines, whose name made investors hold their breath, whose mere presence made wealthy men straighten their ties in fear of being noticed. And he was walking toward her, not past her, not around her, directly to her. The waiter who had mocked her earlier stared in horror from across the room, his expression frozen in disbelief. Amara could barely inhale. When Christian finally stopped in front of her, the world seemed to shrink. His gaze drifted over her slow, deliberate, not judging, not mocking, something else, something deeper. His expression softened only slightly, but enough to send heat rising into her cheeks. "Amara," he said quietly, his voice low, smooth, familiar, in a way that made her chest tighten. "I was waiting for you." Several guests gasped. The waiter nearly choked on air. Amara blinked, stunned. You were?" Christian nodded once. "Of course." His eyes warmed at the edges. "I invited you." Her breath caught. Yes, he had. A charity gala months ago, a brief conversation, a surprising connection, a half smile he'd given only her. He'd said, "If you ever want dinner, I'll send you the perfect place." She thought he was being polite. She never thought he meant here. Christian slowly extended his hand. "Shall we?" Amara hesitated, but only for one trembling heartbeat. Then she placed her hand in his, and his fingers closed around hers with a warmth that melted every cold stare in the room. He turned his head slightly. "Manager." "Yes, sir," the man sputtered. "Prepare my table." "Right away, sir." Christian leaned in slightly, close enough that only she could hear. "And someone will apologize to you, properly." Amara felt the world tilt. The billionaire wasn't just escorting her, he was defending her. The waiter stood stiffly to the side, face drained of color. Christian's gaze locked onto his, calm but lethal. "You told her," Christian said softly, "that you don't serve people like her?" The waiter's knees wobbled. I didn't know who she was." Christian cut him off. "That's the point." Silence, pure, suffocating silence. Christian's grip on Amara's hand tightened just a little, as if he was anchoring her, protecting her, claiming her place beside him. And when he finally spoke again, his voice was final. "You'll fix your mistake right now." The waiter swallowed hard, his arrogance gone, replaced by a trembling fear that spread across his face like a stain. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. I'm sorry, ma'am," he stammered, unable to meet Amara's eyes. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. I didn't know." Christian's voice cut through the air like a quiet blade. "You shouldn't speak to anyone that way, whether you know them or not." The waiter flinched. Amara felt something inside her loosen, something that had been clenched tight since the moment he'd laughed at her dress. She wasn't used to being defended, not like this, not with the kind of authority that made a room fall silent. "Go," Christian said, dismissing him with a flicker of his eyes. The waiter scrambled away. Christian turned back to Amara, and the intensity that had frozen the waiter melted into something much gentler. He lifted her hand, still held in his, and brushed his thumb lightly across her knuckles. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded, though her breath was still uneven. "I didn't expect you to do all that." He gave the smallest hint of a smile. "You deserve respect. I won't stand by and watch anyone treat you otherwise." Her chest tightened. She didn't know how to respond to kindness delivered with that much conviction. Christian guided her toward the private table overlooking the city, a table no one else was ever allowed to sit at. Staff rushed to prepare it, adjusting candles, replacing fresh linens, straightening utensils with trembling hands. He pulled out her chair. "Please," he said, "sit." She did, still uncertain if this was real. Christian took the seat opposite her, resting one elbow lightly on the table, his eyes never leaving hers. "For the record," he added quietly, "your dress is beautiful." Her cheeks warmed. "You don't have to say that." "I never say anything I don't mean." Her breath tangled. "You walked in," he continued, "and the first thing I noticed wasn't your dress. It was your confidence, The way you carried yourself, like someone who didn't need a label to define her. Amara lowered her gaze slightly. I didn't feel confident. Christian leaned forward. But you were brave, braver than most people in this room. You stood your ground. She looked up. His eyes held something she couldn't decipher. Admiration, softness, and a flicker of something warmer. Amara, he said slowly, I didn't invite you here by accident. Her heartbeat skipped. I remembered you, he continued. From the gala, I remembered your voice, the way you spoke like you weren't trying to impress me. I'm surrounded by people who want something from me. He paused. You didn't. She swallowed. I didn't think you'd even recognize me. Christian's jaw flexed gently. I don't forget people who make an impression. Silence settled warm between them, wrapped in candlelight. Then he added, voice lower. And I wanted tonight to be more than just dinner. I wanted to see you again, without a crowd, without noise, just you. Her breath trembled. And now that you're here, he said, eyes holding hers, I don't intend to let anyone make you feel small. Not tonight, not ever. She didn't look away this time. For the first time all night, Amara let herself smile, small, real, and filled with the quiet spark he'd remembered her for. Christian matched it with one of his own, the kind of smile only she would ever see.